As tensions rise across the Middle East, Israel is preparing a significant military response to Iran's recent missile attack. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned that Israel's retaliation would be powerful, precise, and above all, surprising. The strike comes amidst rising concerns over escalating violence in the region, including heightened clashes with Hezbollah in Lebanon. In a critical move, U.S. President Joe Biden engaged in a direct 30-minute conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, marking their first discussion in nearly 2 months. Relations between the two leaders have been strained, with differences in their regional objectives. The White House described the call as a continuation of talks on Israel's forthcoming response to Iran, but offered no specifics on the nature of the retaliation. Biden has, however, urged Israel's actions to remain proportional. A humanitarian crisis is worsening in Lebanon, as Israeli military displacement orders now cover a quarter of Lebanese territory, according to UN reports. Over 1,400 people have been killed, and more than 1.2 million displaced since Israel began its intensified military campaign against Hezbollah. Israel's ground incursion and airstrikes have triggered an expanding war, raising alarm over the growing scale of the conflict. The Israeli military is intensifying its offensive against Hezbollah. Israeli Energy Minister announced that Israeli troops have occupied a southern Lebanese village, raising the Israeli flag. While Israel had primarily focused on the eastern border regions, its ground operations are now spreading to southwestern Lebanon. Despite this expansion, Israeli officials continue to describe their incursions as limited. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah escalated as the militant group launched dozens of rockets into northern Israel, resulting in the first civilian casualties in the region since Israel initiated its ground war. 2 Israeli civilians were killed. Hezbollah claimed responsibility for the attack, stating that it was carried out in support of the Palestinian people in Gaza and in defense of Lebanon. While U.S. President Biden underscored the importance of a diplomatic arrangement to allow displaced civilians to return home, there was no direct call for a ceasefire. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has indicated support for efforts aimed at a ceasefire in Lebanon, marking a notable shift in its stance, though it has not extended this support to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Tensions in Gaza also flared as medical responders and journalists accused the Israeli military of targeting a group of media personnel, resulting in 1 fatality and multiple injuries. The Israel Defense Forces have denied knowledge of any operations in the specified area at the time. The United Nations has expressed grave concerns over its ability to continue humanitarian efforts in Gaza. Philippe Lazzarini, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, warned that an Israeli move to ban the agency could severely hinder humanitarian aid. Lazzarini cautioned the UN Security Council that if the proposed bills pass, the consequences for Palestinian refugees could be devastating.